Hello and welcome to, I forgot what they call it, I'm joking, Occult Academy podcast, episode something or other. Right, it's all right because the last time we did this, we did a really sarky episode, but this one's a direct continuation of the one we've done last, which is all about natural law. I think, Steve, we had a brilliant podcast. Well, it was last night, so to us it was last
Yeah,
night. To the viewer, it's probably going to leave a couple of days before releasing each video so that they've got something to look forward to.
yeah,
Um, I thought we had a brilliant, discussion yesterday about this. The point you made, the way that you presented it, it's absolutely stunning, and I've had a little glimpse into the slides that are coming up. Very impressive. So I don't want to yap on about that too much because we're gonna go into it well as much as you like. Potentially this is going to be three-parter. I don't know how many slides you got in total.
yeah. I mean, for this little stretch, I mean, when we looked at the slides yesterday, I had about 40 to 50 slides, but they were
Nice.
kind of random. And in fairness, these next slides are fairly random. However, I'd like to think that we can kind of, make some sense of it without doing it as a proper formal, well orchestrated presentation, so to speak.
Well, I don't. I mean, to be fair, mate. I mean, it is to me that it looks professional. I hope that we come across as at least I don't know about professional, but at least coherent enough that people can
Yeah,
understand what we're saying and it's clear and it's precise and that we make some good points along the way. I like the format. Again, if other people don't, sorry about that, but I kind of do. I think you'll enjoy the format. Plus, we've got Steve on Snazzy Vision there. He's somehow managed to put himself at the bottom of the screen, and that's dead impressive. So, like, I'm loving that.
are you, just out of interest, because I'm obviously seeing something different to you. Are you on the bottom of the screen?
No,
Just me?
just you on the bottom of the screen.
Oh,
I
well,
don't know how you've done it, but it's
r-
like, so I'm in a little box at the top, and then you're at the bottom. You look, and it looks like you've done it deliberately. It looks brilliant. It looks like you're
all right.
presenting it like
Well, I mean, should I not adjust it so we're both on the
don't even
screen?
know. I
I mean,
mean,
I'm sure I could go back and do that because it's a bit unfair, that we're both talking here, and if it's only me at the bottom of the screen, it's a bit.
if you know how to do it, I mean, to be fair, mate, it's the information that's important, and as long
Yeah,
as
I'll
people can hear us both, but if
go
you
on
if
to
you can
stop
put us both
share.
on, let's have a look at that.
I'll go
Go
on
on
to
then.
stop share.
Aye.
So, hello, everybody. And we'll try that again. I'll see what options come up. So,
All right then.
all right. So, just out of interest, that came up on as the presenter layout. It's called over the shoulder. So,
Oh,
we
right.
want to
Okay.
be. Uh, I mean, I'm guessing here. I'm going on to something called side by side and see what comes up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, we've got you and a slide.
right. Not you.
No,
Right. I'll try that again.
again, it's really fancy how you've done it, so I'm quite impressed. Can't
All
be,
right.
my camera's got all bloody blurry again. Can't win.
Presenter layout.
This is
Um,
this is how not to do it professionally at home, by the way, folks. This is like if anyone thinks that we're shills and grifters and agents, and this should prove to you that we're just like completely bloody clueless with technology and well, it's fun times. So right, whilst you're trying to figure out how Zoom can do fancy stuff.
uh-huh.
I'm gonna tell you what's put a smile on my face today. Now, I wasn't going to discuss any of this until I've released the book that I've been working on the last couple of weeks, well, months. Um, so are you familiar with a channel called Archaics?
Yes.
Jason Brashears.
Yes.
Right. So he is currently tonight, which is little bit of a guilty confession. So I got a little bit delayed coming on here for two reasons. One, needed something to eat, and two, Mr. Brashears has effectively open bloody declared warfare on someone called Guy Anderson, and it's brilliant. It's put a proper smile on my
Oh,
face,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that might sound horrible, right? But I'll tell you, my issue is this. So I've been writing a book, effectively debunking the whole Tartaria conspiracy, right? It's only a short book. It should be due out by September. And it takes, so things like Mind Unveiled and Guy Anderson, there's a couple of others that are involved in it. And honestly, I mean, this is when you first come across the whole Tartaria thing, it's like, oh, that's interesting. What did happen to the maps? Why is it suddenly wiped off the maps and things like that? Now, I do happen to know a fair bit about medieval history. So I know that the Tartars were real people. I know that they were effectively mixed in with the Mongols and that they were mixed in with Turks and Mongols. They inhabited a massive area of land in Russia, well, between Russia and China. Um, anyway, so there were nomadic people. There were effectively barbarian tribes. They started off as like I don't know, raiders and destroyers. Anyway, these the Tartars, the Mongols, whatever you want to look at this particular region as, it is very, very well documented in history. And again, I mean, the maps do appear to have been adjusted to kind of effectively remove them. But again, that's more to do with Russians and communism and Soviet takeover than anything else. Now, I've looked into this because I've looked at the claims of the people spouting this Tartarian narrative. Again, we'll come back to the natural law shortly. I just want to tell you, like, while we're getting to it. Um, and it's just, I mean, there's literally no evidence. The stuff that they're saying is evidence, and it's linked to, I don't know, Germany, and it's linked to all these different colonial parts, and all the architecture's Tartarian. They've got Tartarian high technology. I mean, it is just pure, unsupported, no evidence, and I mean zero evidence, total 100% grift, right? And it irritates the life out of me. I mean, I'm surprised I haven't done Holly's head in with this, but she seems very, very supportive. In putting his book together because she's like, no, you've got to like demonstrate to people that they're being had here. I mean, this is a massive, massive psyop, and I guess people hearing this, I mean, they tend to they want this to be true. Now, I'm not sure why they want this to be true, but believe me, folks, the claims to do with all this Tartaria stuff, the millennial reign of Christ. I mean, it wasn't even a Christian empire; it was Muslim. And before it was Muslim, it worshipped a religion called Tengrism. So anyway, the reason I'm so happy and so excited is because Jason Brashears of the Archaics channel, whatever you want to refer to that as, I've just clicked on that now, and he's just called him out on his bullshit, and it's just like, oh, I mean, Christmas has just come early here because I mean, I've got a ton of research already, like prepped and ready in a book, and he's just like handed me a load of other stuff, and so there you go. Off point.
Interesting, no? Do you have
I
a name for the book?
Well, so the thing is, I like looking into psyops. I don't like the psyops. I like looking into them. I like looking into things that people have been drawn into. Now, this is when we talk a lot about critical thinking.
Yeah.
And we often talk about mind traps and biases and things like that. And the truth movement, which we never have a go at, obviously, because it's us. But they are very, very adamant that you should always do your own research. This is like it's like a mantra to them, isn't it? It's like, don't take my word for it, do your own research, right? Well, some of us actually go and do the research, right? And it takes a little while to get our heads around a few things, but it's like some of us do that. Unfortunately, many don't. Like they just say they do, and then they repeat the mantra a little bit more. Sorry about the slides there, mate. We'll come to that. So,
Yeah.
but then there's the critical thinking aspect and the critical thinking angle, which I mean, critical thinking it's self-explanatory. It's using criticism. You're supposed to look at things objectively, without a bias, without a preference. You just take the information, absorb it, research it, investigate it, check it out, test it, see if it works. If it comes back as bullshit, then call it out as such, right? I mean, don't where are all these mad psyops coming from? Now, I've got a theory about that as well, which I'll link together with two other psyops actually, because it is very, very much in line with communist agendas, and that's going to sound a bit uh, well, it's a I can't sorry I can't think of the word for it, but it's a bit of a broad claim. But there is definitely a theme going on here about rewriting history, and the Chinese and the Russians are very, very prevalent in doing this, and not so much the Russians at the minute, but I'm referring to the Soviets. The idea is that if you can rewrite history, you can then detach people from their cultures, from their history, from their past, from their identity, from their traditions and things like this. And then that what that does is it enables new policies and new political ideologies to come in and take over without struggle, without a fight, because effectively you've already dislodged them from their sense of identity.
Hmm.
And that is exactly what's going on here. And if just to give Passio a brief mention here, he he looked into psyops as well. In fact, he was the inspiration for me looking into it initially, and then I was just like, oh, this thing is massive. I mean, there's so many
Hmm.
psyops to look into at this point. But this is something called a worldview psyop,
Hmm.
and my God, is it in full swing? And how so-called truthers have not done the research into this. What I mean, they're just buying it up. I mean, it's like he must have about 8,000 subscribers, Guy Anderson. And his son, I mean, if you think Guy Anderson's bad, you want to see what his son's coming out with. It's embarrassing. I mean, I can't even express the stupidity that's poured out on those websites. And yet the subscriber numbers are just they're like really going up. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry,
I mean,
I'm
I
passionate
don't
about this one.
follow his work at all. I mean, I'm aware of him. I've heard a couple of his podcasts. I don't
Mhm.
follow his work. I'm not massively knowledgeable on Tartaria, so I'm not the person to comment on any of that.
Fair
But
enough.
I would say, just given the fact that he's commanding fairly large
Mhm.
figures, is I would say a lot of these people are perhaps drawn. Their critical thinking is based upon emotion.
Yes. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
again, I'm not criticizing the work because I've not looked into it, but just on the figures alone, that spells to me that people are driven by their emotional intelligence rather than
Yeah.
the higher order of intelligence. Because ultimately, I mean, the proof is in the pudding in a sense. Natural law and objective morality, even though it's a philosophy and it's an occult-based philosophy, does describe you could say, the secrets on how we can achieve freedom in the universe, greater peace and greater freedom,
Yeah.
because it's all based upon truth and principle. But it doesn't really draw that much of an interest from
No,
a
it
large
doesn't.
audience.
No.
It's mental, really, because the truth and freedom movement are almost denying the truth and freedom
Yeah.
that this occult based science offers. It's
Yeah.
nuts, isn't it?
Well, I mean, so again, I understand a little bit of the social engineering behind it. I understand a little bit of the psychology behind it. I understand why people fall for this, and unfortunately, some of no, I won't mention that actually because that'd be unfair. Because I was gonna mention another name in league with this, but I'm not gonna because they're not fully integrated into that particular psyop.
Mm.
But what they do is they basically what they've got is sensationalism, right? They've got something that is new and novel and sensational, right? And so they're preying on people who are happy to take other people at their word based purely, again, like you say, it's an emotional attachment to this kind of information, right?
Mm.
It's like they claim to be critical thinkers, they claim to be open-minded. I mean, a little bit too open-minded in some cases, but where's the discernment? And a lot of the claims made are just batshit crazy. I mean,
Mm.
again, I've looked into this in depth, right? I've spent the last 6 months looking into this massively. In fact, to my detriment, I bought three of his books. Well, I haven't. Holly has on my behalf, but and we've gone through them, and it's just like sometimes I'll stop and I'll go, what?
Mm.
What? It's just what? Where is he getting this from? I mean,
Mm.
he's claiming he's done research. I mean, one like here's an example. He's claiming that the word cathedral comes from the word cathode ray.
Mm.
It doesn't. It comes from the word cathedra, which, as far as I understand it, is a Byzantine term for like a bishop's seat in a cathedral. Like, it's like this is where the bishop's authority
Mm.
lies. It's like a seat of power that was assigned to a bishop, a cathedra. Now, a
Mm.
10-second Google search will tell you that,
Yeah.
right? It's claiming that all this Tartarian technology. Sorry, I know this is definitely not to do with like natural law on the subject, but and we'll definitely come back to this. But
Hmm.
it's like, well, if all these buildings are Tartarian, I mean, they're not. There's a number of influences there. You've got a mix between Gothic, you've got a mix between Islamic, Byzantine, Roman style. You've got New Roman style, like the Roman revival architecture and things like that thrown into it. You've got colonial style, you've got Georgian architecture thrown into it. Why was it in all the colonies? because it was a popular style of architecture in Europe, and therefore it was spread to the colonies. You
Mhm.
know, dead simple, easy to look up. You can see when they were built, who built them, why they were built, and the claims are just mental.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would point out is, if all of these buildings are Tartarian, why do we not find any of them in the land of Tartary? So, or well, the form of what used to be
Right.
Tartary. I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
most of it's now Russia and Turkestan and
Yeah.
Uzbekistan, I think, all those
Mm.
regions there
Yeah.
north
Yeah.
of Georgia. Um, they were nomads, for Christ's sake. They didn't go around building cathedrals and domes to generate electricity and have flying cars. I mean, they were
Mm.
bloody nomadic horse raiders. It's
It's definitely an interesting topic, and I mean,
oh yeah,
as we were talking yesterday, I mean, I do like to see some of the pictures and photographs, and I
yeah.
find them fascinating. And I mean, the architecture, you know, some of the finest architecture you'll ever see,
Hmm.
really fascinating. So I can understand why it does draw a large appeal, but ultimately, as we say many times, it's still I don't want to necessarily pinpoint that as being conspiracy theory, but when we're not looking into truth and principle based on logic and reason on how the universe functions, well, all we're basing our kind of worldview appraisal on is largely, I don't want to say delusional bunk, but you
Kind of
know,
is though.
evidence of some degree of dreamy type nonsensical, hard to prove, hard to pinpoint, and ultimately, what difference does it make at the end of the day in the scheme of things?
Oh, all right. So
Knowing the
can
truth. Well, I was going to say, knowing the truth about what Tartaria is all about isn't going to change the social dynamics of how the world functions. It's
well,
interesting.
actually, so I'm going to disagree with you on this one. So the
Okay.
reason I've right. So and again, so I understand where you're coming from, but here's why I disagree with you on this one.
Yeah.
The idea that there's people pushing this narrative, and again, it's completely unsupported. There is no evidence to back any of it up, and I mean seriously. Like, if people look into this properly, they'll find zero evidence. What is happening here is people are preying on people on their audience's naivety, their lack of information, their lack of understanding, their lack of historical context. So they're preying on them for their own benefit. And what are
Yeah.
they getting out of it? You could say, well, what are they getting out of it? Well, they're selling books. Well, okay, I'm selling books too. I understand that, but at least I try very much to concentrate on fact and evidence, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of it might be my opinion, but where it is my opinion, I'll state it as opinion,
Yeah.
right? And that's it. But I try to get fact and evidence out there because I don't want to delude people. I don't want to lie to people. I don't
Yeah.
want to mislead them. And again, as far as I can tell, this is leading into some kind of overarching communist agenda and communist worldview, which is the frightening part of it.
Mm.
And so my issue with this, it's not about attacking people. It's about the fact that people are being deceived en masse. I
Yeah.
mean, they really are being led astray, and I do have a problem with that because it's disingenuous and dishonest. And
Oh,
that,
yeah.
if we talk about natural law, lying to people, grifting off of false claims and false narratives, yeah, that's a bit of a biggie for
Yeah.
me. That's something that I'm not allowed to. Sorry, not allowed. That's the wrong word, isn't it? I'm not willing to accept, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
And it sounds a
Yeah.
bit arrogant, but not allowed is the wrong word.
Well,
Um,
deceit and coercion is or amongst the seven transgressions of natural law,
mhm,
and if there is an agenda, and let's face it, worldview poisoning is part of the agenda.
what's that?
The propaganda machine is deliberately trying to subvert our understanding of many things, and
Hmm.
one of these is worldview poisoning. Our worldview has been
Yeah,
subverted, manipulated, disjointed, all of
massively.
these negative things. Why? Because it keeps us at a disadvantage ultimately.
Well, I mean, he is. I mean, it's exactly that. But another one is people will say, well, yeah, do you believe all the mainstream history? Well, do I believe the stuff that archaeology and records and stuff can attest to, and the statues and the buildings and journals and chroniclers and stuff like that? Armor, remains, trinkets, coins, all of
Mm.
that. Yeah, I kind of do. The story behind the events might not be what we're told,
Mhm.
but the events themselves, you know,
Yeah.
it's pretty. Do you know how difficult it would be? Because one of the claims that's made by these like Tartarian conspiracy theorists is that they've basically made up 1,000 years of history. They've inserted 1,000 years of history into the timeline.
Hmm.
Right now, again, I've looked into this, and it's like a spaghetti maze junction, right? It's the spaghetti junction. You look
Yeah.
at it, it's like, well, none of that makes sense at all, and you try and unravel it. And it's like, well, it can't work that way because all the way that civilizations develop is it's a logical progression over time.
Hmm.
I mean, it really is. It's like one bit leads to another bit leads to another, and that things develop from there. But consider the amount of effort that would have to go into uh, removing all traces of an alleged empire and then making up 1,000 years of history. That would be a ridiculous, colossal effort. I mean, look at the manpower that would be involved in that.
Hmm.
Look at the amount of artists. Look at the amount of scholars and chroniclers and every builders, all of it. You take
Hmm.
all of that into consideration. They'd all have to be on the same page from every nation all over the world.
Hmm.
They'd all have to be pushing the same narrative. Everyone would have to be silenced. And they'd have to everyone would have to be in it. The entire population of the world would have to be in on it. It's mental. I
Yeah.
mean, the logistics alone is just enough to debunk it. But again, it's a biggie. Right. That's an aside. I'd like to come back to this at some point because again, this is something that really irks me. And again, it's not necessarily the people. Well, it is in Guy Anderson's case because he is just 100% grifter. However, the narrative is misleading people. It is leading them astray. It is leading them down the garden path and feeding them false history. And to me, that's lies and deceit. And again, we're talking about natural law. That can't be allowed to like continue, right? I
Hmm.
mean, that's mental.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, done. Right. There you go. I've had my rant, but that's why I'm cheerful today. Right, do you
Well,
want to
that's a
stick some
good
slides on?
introduction, isn't it? Yeah, that's a good introduction, and I'm quite intrigued. So I'm looking forward to discussing and learning more about
Oh,
these
mate,
elements.
saying that, look into like seriously, go and pay his website a visit. If you can get hold of his books for like, I don't know, for cheap, or if you can get a rental copy of them or something, it's entertaining, I'll give it that.
Mm.
And he does something very clever with it. He mixes up like genuine truth and fact, which seems to be completely out of context to his main narrative, and then
Hmm.
he puts his Tartarian narrative in it. And it's just, well, number one, there's no context. There's nothing to link it. If anything, I think he's plagiarized John Hamer's work in some parts when it comes to like Tesla and engineering and stuff from history.
Hmm.
It's crackers, right? But that being said, if you want an entertaining couple of hours, go and have a look at what his son is saying, what he's saying. Go and have a look at Mind Unveiled for that matter. I mean, I think you're familiar with that one.
Yeah, I've seen. I
Yeah.
mean, not for a couple of years, but I have seen some of their stuff in the past.
Yeah,
Uh,
have a look, and
yeah,
if you've got any kind of history encyclopedias or history books or stuff like, I mean, even the internet. I mean, it's not difficult to find this stuff on the internet.
yeah,
It
yeah.
really, really isn't difficult. It's there, and it's been there for a long time. Anyway, right, I'm shutting up. Stick your stick your
Okay,
slides on.
so
Let's
we
get
get
let's
that
get
back.
yeah, there we
Right,
go.
right. Give me a second. Right. Content only.
We need you at the bottom of the screen again, mate. We need your fancy pants
Are you sure?
graphics.
Well, that will omit you from the
All
screen.
right, mate. I'm
You're
I'm
not
happy with
bothered,
that as long as the information's there and people
right?
can hear us.
Okay. I can. Does that come up?
Yeah, everything's good. It's
Um,
all it's all on screen.
right. So you're happy with what we're seeing there so
Yeah,
far on the
that's
screen?
brilliant. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
brilliant.
absolutely fine with that, mate. Don't worry about me on the
All right,
screen.
happy days. I mean,
Yeah,
you can always, when we come to discussion points, we can easily step out of
yeah,
the presentation part and
yeah.
put our handsome faces on once again. By the way, I thought go for something different tonight. This is
Oh,
Sicily Cross, which is a
oh,
whiskey cask Scottish cider. So cheers all.
oh, I'm letting
Six
the
point
sides on
seven
again.
percent.
How much? Six.
6.7%.
You know what you've just done there, don't you? You've just triggered a load of the youth going 6, 7.
6, 7. Yeah, exactly. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean it is hilarious, and
Yeah,
I still yet to have a reasonable explanation to tell me exactly what it's about. So, but anyway,
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
gets them stimulated, I guess. But I'm bringing the side down. I don't know whether you can see it in the little thing. I'm on a protein machine.
It
It's a
looks healthy,
smoothie.
that mate.
It's interesting. It's not as nice as the regular smoothies, but it's got extra protein in apparently. So, I can't get drunk off it. I mean, I do have Holly's special brew behind me, but I mean that stuff is very strong. So I think I'm gonna maybe it's a good idea if I do have some of that tonight. Actually, right, I'm gonna shut up. You tell us about natural law, Steve.
Well, I thought it's because we put a few slides up. In fact, our last podcast, which
Yeah.
we were discussing yesterday, we've we've finished off with looking at the law of mentalism, which is one of the Hermetic principles, the first Hermetic principle, you could say. And what we've got here is just basically a revisit. Oh, my mistake there. A revisit on what natural law actually is. So again, we put a few different different translations of natural law, and here's another one. And again, I thought it would be good to just to touch upon it for anybody who's either tuning in and missed the first section or just want to be reminded. So, natural law is the organizing intelligence of the natural universe, which is a system of observable principles unrelated to culture or religion, which govern all life. And natural law recognizes the rights of nature as inseparable from human rights. And again, another the so what of that, if you like, is
Mm,
what this means is when morality declines, freedom also declines. And this is part of what's known as the law of freedom. And it also goes on to state when morality increases, freedom therefore also increases. So again, this is just a little bit of a catch up. It's a
mhm.
slightly different translation of the same theme. It's the governing consequences of the universe related to human behavior. Some people actually understand it as the law of behavior, and if we use that expression, it kind of automatically starts to align with a bit of common sense there. I think the law of behavior, it kind of tells you what is behind it all and why it's important for everybody to understand why this is an important aspect of our physical and spiritual universe.
Yeah.
Um,
I was
yeah,
going
go
to
on,
say
mate.
no. I was just going to say, do you want to read the rest of the slide out first? Because I mean, if we recap again, it's like to me, it's about responsibility and accountability combined with common sense and critical thinking, right? I
Yeah,
mean, if you want, again, it's a case of do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Do no harm but take no shit. I mean, there's so many ways to look at this, but it's it's really not that difficult. And if people do have difficulties with this, I wonder if that comes from some kind of political influence. I wonder if it comes from some kind of media influence. I mean, if they're not interested in it, that would certainly explain why they can't get their heads around it. But equally, is this a conflict with the idea of religious morality? Is religious morality conflicting with people? And so they're looking at this and going, yeah, well, that's not God's law. Yeah, but my issue with that is not everyone's a Christian. Not everyone adheres to the Jewish Torah. Not everyone
yeah,
adheres to the Islamic laws, for example. To take any religion, I'm not picking on anyone in particular. But if you're trying to contrast this or balance it out with or equate it with, bloody hell. Sorry, it's been a long day. But if you're trying to equate that to your religious version of morality, it is going to cause a few problems because what you're dealing with in religious morality, a lot of the times it's doctrine, it's dogma, it's
yeah,
kind of a way of controlling people. It's a form of mind control.
yeah,
And what people tend to not understand is even if let's say John is a Christian, John can't understand why we don't understand the Bible. It's like, well, no, it's not a case of not understanding the Bible. It's just that we disagree with it. For example, right? And so just because somebody wrote a thing in a book 1,000 years ago, doesn't make that true necessarily.
Yeah,
Again, this is not a critique on Christianity or anything like that. I'm just simply saying, just because that is the moral view or the religious view that you have adopted, does not mean that that is the only or the correct view available, right? It's
yeah,
so
exactly.
so that might be, I suspect, what's causing a little bit of a conflict of interest with when we're talking about God's law, natural law, sovereign law, things like that, and they're trying to contrast it to that. Maybe there's a bit of dissonance involved there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is. There's a lot of, you could say, religious ideology. God's law as interpreted in some religious contexts
Hmm.
comes up as, or comes across as, a bit of a dogmatic view. Whereas natural law, on the other hand, this can be provably demonstrated. It's not just a set of instructions written down by, let's just say, the God up high. This is something that we can prove to ourselves by coming into an understanding of, through observation and critical thinking. So anyone can apply this and come up with this into a worldview. But ultimately, what needs to happen is there needs to be a mental revolution of thought, essentially, because we have been poisoned in our worldview. Whether we only subconsciously recognize that or we're fully cognizant of it. But that worldview needs to change, and it needs to be, well, again, as some of the slides will hopefully show, we need to come into a new line of thought. And that can be a little bit of an uncomfortable place, because it's, who wants to basically challenge their understanding and then completely separate from an old, let's just say, worldview or system into a new um,
Paradigm.
modality thought. Yeah, a new paradigm, exactly.
Well, it
But
is. I mean, sorry, mate. I'm sorry to
yeah,
interrupt, but
go on, man.
you and I have had this discussion many times, and I think you like say it very well and succinctly when you say that it's about elevating your consciousness. It is a genuine like how do you usually say this? Bloody hell, my brain's not working today. But effectively, what is required is an evolution of consciousness. We need to step above where we've been all these years
Yeah,
and say, right, now it's time to really learn stuff, really apply the lessons that we've learned through history, really apply what we've learned through science and all of the take everything combined,
yeah,
and combine that with an understanding of psychology, of sociology, of geography, like put it all together, stick to the facts, stick to what you can understand, stick to, you know what I mean? And then push that forward as a conscious development, right? An evolution in consciousness. Because without that, we're just going to stagnate. And
yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
whether I've mentioned it before. I mean, I've mentioned it in my books that you either evolve or you stagnate. And if you stagnate, that leads to death.
Yeah,
Because stagnation, basically, it's a form of decomposition, isn't it? It's you're gonna slow down, slow down, slow down, go around in circles a couple of times and then stop. And at the point
yeah,
where you've stopped, you're going to lose momentum, you're going to lose motivation, you're going to lose purpose, you're going to lose hope. All those things go. That's stagnation. So you're either
yeah.
evolving, which is a healthy spiral, or we get society that we've got at the minute, which is in a bit of a rut. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just on that thought alone, stagnate leads to death. And what are we seeing at the minute in society as a whole? And again, anyone can observe this. I'm sure if anyone was to say, in broad terms, is the world getting better? Is conditions in the world, the socio-political, uh, you know, strata of the world, is it getting better or is it getting worse? Well, I don't think anybody in the world would say it's getting better. Well, that means, well, what does that mean? It means that freedom essentially is declining. Why? Because morality is declining. And if you can understand that the behavior and the conditions we experience are linked, then it kind of makes sense.
I mean,
Uh,
without trying to outdo what you just said there, I wouldn't say that freedom's declining. I think freedom's being deleted. I
Yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
we're just it's again the censorship
yeah,
is what concerns me the most. This
yeah,
removed privacy, the fact that the government can now intercept your emails, your messages, your bank accounts. I mean that I mean you talk about natural law, moral law. What the hell kind of moral
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
absurdity is that? You know, I
Yeah,
mean that's overstepping the line by such a large margin that it's like, why are people putting up with this? It's
yeah.
insane.
I know just through speaking to people who aren't truthers, let's just put it that way,
Mm,
don't really appreciate that that is actually happening. And if they do acknowledge that, they've realized that, oh yeah, but it's because of such and such trying to make it for our own safety. In other words, they're stuck in the political paradigm, but it is because they are themselves not able to assimilate a higher mindset. So therefore, they are still resolved in a lower state of consciousness,
yeah.
which is why consciousness is massively important to embarking upon this new worldview. I say new worldview, it's not a new worldview, it's a new worldview because we've been poisoned for so long with a ridiculous understanding of reality that
Yeah.
basically we're operating like clowns in a pantomime.
Effectively,
So
it's
back to the slide, it says in bold there that no one can stop a volcano or step in its way without consequence. Equally, no one can stop the effects of natural law from the consequences of immoral behaviors. So we either learn to improve upon morality or we continue as we are to learn the hard way.
yeah.
I've
Uh,
also got a footnote at the bottom there, and again, I'd like to think it comes up on the screen okay,
yeah,
but
it's on there, mate. Yeah, go for it,
right.
read it all out. Yeah,
Okay, so again, it's not massively connected here, but it's important to know that since we've talked about the law of mentalism on the last podcast, basically the last slide, the law of mentalism, i.e., all is mind. Well, it's important again, and I say this very regularly. The word government itself means mind control. So, and you could easily say as well, controlling the minds of other people, especially when it's for somebody else's benefit,
hmm.
is ultimately immoral. And
Yeah,
again, government are immoral with many other things that it's not necessarily on this slide, but many other things that government do are provably immoral. But therefore, anyone essentially supporting authority is also immoral, immoral by default, you could say. So when an entire society enables immoral behaviors, the inherent laws of nature ensure that the negative outcomes restrict our freedoms of movement in that particular society.
yeah,
So morality is massively important, and hopefully, again, I'm not saying by the end of this presentation we'll know ultimately intimately what morality is all about, but hopefully we'll have a better grasp on a lot of that. Have you got anything to add on that slide, Nathan?
no, I mean just what you've said there. I mean, again, it's you don't need a doctorate in psychology or philosophy to understand ethics and morality. Not at least
Yeah,
not at the basic level.
yeah,
It is about correct behavior. It is about causing no harm and doing the right thing. I mean, it really is that simple.
yeah,
Um, and as we said at length yesterday, actions have consequences. So negative actions will have negative consequences. Positive actions generally will have positive consequences. You know, I mean, obviously we can't always account for a direct reciprocation, you know, for good equals good and bad equals bad. But you know, generally, negative behaviors result in negative outcomes.
yeah, yeah,
Nothing good can come from a society which is just purely um, putting out bad actions and bad intent and bad. You know, it's just you're not gonna. You know, there's no benefit to that.
yeah,
Um, anyway, so there you go.
yeah.
Now let's continue with the slides because I think I've
Super.
yapped on enough so far today.
Right, mate. I
Brilliant.
think this mentioned mentioned as well just slightly earlier as we were talking, but personal responsibility is massively important in, you know, again, not only the evolution of consciousness, but also for upholding the tenets and values of natural law. But effective strategy leading towards greater freedom demands a fundamental change in consciousness. So to change a worldview that has been effectively poisoned over generations is, as it says, admittedly not easy. Largely because we are well accustomed to abdicating personal responsibility regarding objective morality. It's again, society has been kind of cultured to not recognize morality and not really put it at the forefront of their understanding. Again, and we suffer as a result of that. But society has essentially disregarded the truth relating to right and wrong behaviors, partly out of ignorance and naivety, but also due simply to accepting a paycheck and obeying instructions in return for an easy life. But as a footnote at the bottom of there, upholding behaviors that harmonize with natural law is a key personal responsibility. That means, broadly speaking, everybody needs to be on board with this understanding. So we, as a species, essentially need to change our worldview. It's no easy matter.
It's not. I mean, so you mentioned, paychecks there, and again, a lot of people say, "Well, what do you want me to do? Give up my job and give up my house and things like that." Well, okay, from that, let's be honest, from that perspective, we can't really expect people to do those things because they would then be putting themselves in harm, and they would be creating a new level of suffering for themselves. So yeah, obviously that's not what we're advocating for. But again, if we had a full momentum behind this, where if you could go into work and express your discontent with the system, do it respectfully, or or in any way that you can, really. So it is a difficult paradigm to break. I mean, in terms of getting rid of the old norms, getting rid of the old, what the things that we've come to accept, or the things that have been ingrained into us from a societal level. Yeah, that can be pretty hard to break out of it, especially if you're dependent on your income from that particular system. And I don't think reasonably we can expect everyone to just say, no, well, I'm going to quit my job and live in a tent in the middle of the woods. I mean, that's not, it's not ideal. If you're going to cause yourself harm, then there's the number one rule of natural law, isn't it? Do no harm.
Yeah. I mean,
and so
it's got
doing
to
harm
be
to
done.
yourself is still harm.
Yeah. It's got to be done. Again, I use myself as an example here because I effectively quit the cult I worked for as a soldier when I came to accept my personal responsibility, and when my worldview started to broaden and enrich through understanding morality and natural law and my place in it, and realizing that I was part of the problem that we were basically creating for ourselves. When I came to that understanding, and again, it took me quite a long time to realize and to take that decision, etc. It's not an easy thing to do. It will mean, and it certainly did for me, financial hardships and difficulties. But there's no simple answer to that. It's either we want freedom and we generate freedom by our actions, and bear in mind we've got to consider that we are in a spiritual war, so it's not bombs and bullets getting fired here. It's psychology, it's psychological tools, it's psychological hardships, psychological weaponry that's being employed, and we have to take that on the chin, so to speak. Hopefully we're not going to get our houses flattened by aerial bombardments, but potentially we're going to lose property, for example, property or financial obligations due to the decisions that we take in this battlefield. It's not an easy thing to do, which is why we essentially we need to have our heads in the game.
Well, again, it's not easy. I would make the caveat there is that you just right. Okay, so you made the decision to do what you did based on you did the shadow work, you did the understanding, you took the time to learn this stuff, to understand it. and to align yourself with it, right? And so what you've effectively done is you've dispelled uh the ignorance behind it, right? So this isn't just a blind decision that you've just gone, oh well, I'll do that because you haven't done this on a whim. You've looked into it
Yeah.
properly. You've made a decision based on morals and principles, right? You've done that. Now, the difference between, say, you doing what you've done and somebody else impoverishing themselves by giving up their job is that you are quite happy. Well, I don't know whether happy is the right word, but
Mm.
you are willing to take the consequences for your actions. You know that this could go in any number of directions, and but you've aligned yourself with principle to say, right, okay, I'm aware that this could have negative outcomes. This could have negative effects on myself and my family, my home. But I'm prepared for that. I'm prepared to stand on principle and see it through no matter what. And to be
Yeah.
fair to you, mate, you have. I mean, I know quite a lot of what you've been through, and you've been challenged, mate, but you're still
Mm.
there. You're still standing on principle. You're still holding true, and you're still willing to take the consequences for anything that comes to you. You're willing to fight that respectfully and go forward in whichever way it takes you. And so again, there is a level of if you want to come out the system, if you want to fight the system, and you are fully prepared to deal with that. As in, you've done the background research, you've found out what you need to know. You
Mhm.
you've no, it's not comfortable. You've become you've accepted the possibilities of your actions. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's different. And so to me, that I mean, that's respect worthy. Again, I don't want to sound as if I'm contradicting myself from earlier, but again, there's a difference between doing something like this
Yeah.
if you are able to do that, if you're able to deal with that, if you are able to look at hardships and get through. I mean, you were in the army and the air force for a lot of years. You've been disciplined. You've been skilled up. You know how to survive. You've got all these skills which a lot of people don't. And
Yeah.
so I think for some people, right? So the idea of living off grid, for example, right? A lot of people say, well, I'm going to get in my camper van and I'm going to sell my house and I'm going to do that and I'm going to go and live in the woods. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to do for money? Well, I don't need money. Yes, you do. You need money for food. You need money
Yeah.
for petrol. You need money for travel. You're going to still be in the system. You're just going to be more mobile within the system, right? But
Yeah.
it's all they have to do is introduce checkpoints and ID checks and limitations on travel and stop your petrol supply, stop you from accessing your bank account. They've got you. What are you going to do? Live off
Yeah.
berries for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
However, that
Exactly.
being said, you actually could do that. I mean, so the difference being there is that some people actually have the skill sets to do that. They've got the experience to do that, and they've got the conviction to do that. Whereas a
Yeah.
lot of people have like deceived themselves into thinking that they can do that without really considering
Yeah.
the outcomes that are attached to it. Anyway, right, I've digressed massively there,
Yeah.
but again,
We could
this
definitely
is
go deep on that, and another thing to consider as well is if all we do is run from the situations. And again, I would not
yeah.
necessarily say do any of this stuff just to run away from accepting the responsibility of what's going on in the world, because ultimately that's a defensive measure, and you can run, but you can't hide forever.
Well,
Eventually,
no, then
if
we'll
our
close in.
tactics are defensive, we will eventually, we're just holding back our inevitable defeat. We have got to be offensive in spirit at some stage in order to sustain a victory.
The other I mean, again, it's the ideal slide to point this out because it is about personal responsibility and accountability. It does come back to that level of sovereignty that you are responsible for your own actions, right? Which
Mhm.
means you'd best get clued up then,
Yeah.
and as you have. But I think unfortunately, a lot of people. I mean, some people, even normies can now see that there's things that are not right here, right? They can see that there's things happening society wide that it's leaving a bit of taste in their mouth.
Hmm.
It's a little bit too intrusive. It's a little bit too much restrictions and limitations, and they are starting to see this, right? But this is the agenda that we've been talking about. This
Yeah.
this is what we've been saying is coming, and now it's here. It's not a conspiracy theory. it's politics, right? It's current affairs, right? And so there's two ways you can deal with this. It's prepare for it and be willing to take measures and steps to prevent it and fight against it, or if you're not willing to do that, then prepare yourself to accept whatever's thrown at you because one way or another you're going to have to adjust to this.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying accept it. I'm saying adjust to it because some wars are winnable at a certain point, but if you don't take action against your aggressor, you're going to lose that war. And at the
yeah,
minute,
exactly.
we're taking all the hits, right? The
Yeah,
government are handing out all the hits and they're getting all the victories because people are not standing on principle and they're not saying enough's enough. They're not
yeah,
saying we're not complying with this. They're moaning about it. They're whinging about it quite a lot. Okay, that's good enough for getting the information out there. But what are we going to do with that? And I
yeah.
think people have got,
That's a
there's a
good
hard
point.
lesson.
I mean, we talked about we're kind of giving the New Age movement a bit of a hard time yesterday because they
Yeah,
essentially reject certain aspects of reality.
yeah,
Therefore, to them, it doesn't exist. Well, that doesn't mean the problem goes away. And it's the same with spiritual warfare because that's essentially what we're in. And hopefully, one of the slides will discuss that in a little
yeah,
bit more depth. But
absolutely.
in terms of warfare, if we ignore the fact that we are either combatants or victims on this battlefield, well, the war's not going to just disappear just because we don't acknowledge it. We've got to accept it. And at some stage, we need to accept the fact that we need to collectively do something about it. And we need to not just collectively, but individually do something about it.
Yeah.
Again, the more knowledge you've got, the more you can act without fear. And if you can do actions without fear, then you're going to at least develop the better chance of obtaining some sort of positive result.
It is. I mean, again, there's a couple more esoteric phrases we can throw into this. It's as above, so below, as within, so
Yeah,
without. So we're on about the microcosm and the macrocosm. It's about taking personal sovereignty, but also applying it societally. So that's integrating both the internal and the external, and one is reflected within the other. And if you want to take it further than that, you've got Temet Noske, right, which is know thyself.
yeah,
Know thyself and you shall know the world, or should you know thyself, you should know the universe, and things like that. And it is ancient wisdom. I mean, like literally in case of,
yeah. I mean, this is all part of the occult philosophy that people need to assimilate. Because, again, to expand on that phrase or to coin it in a slightly different way, know your enemy and the battle is won, but know yourself and the war is won. So, our internal state of mind, our ability to have a firm understanding, to have the correct emotions and actions to drive that understanding forward, is how battles and wars are won. Again, if we ain't got that from at whatever stage we're at now, then we are going to struggle as a result.
Well, we are struggling. Look, I mean, let's apply some of this to current situation, right? In the UK, and again, it's not just the UK. This has been rolled out globally. It's coming to a country near you. I mean, if you
Yeah,
think you're outside of the jurisdiction of these intrusive laws coming in, you're sadly mistaken. You can't access things without a passport. You can't get onto the internet and do a web search without a passport. This isn't about protecting children. This is about taking your rights and freedoms and telling you what you can and can't access, because Big Daddy government have told you that you have to submit yourself before them, before the authorities, before you can do that. Right? That's a level of restriction. That is effectively putting you in a prison. If you don't comply with Daddy government, we take your rights away. We take your access to the world away. We take your access to your phone away. And who can do anything without a phone these days? I mean, as much as I don't like the damn things, and I don't like them, try doing your banking without them.
yeah.
Try. There's a lot of things that try going to work without them. I mean, there's
Yeah.
oh God, yeah, there's so many things, and it's here now, and so we are now seeing the struggle that this is bringing in. It's undeniable. And if we
Yeah.
just keep allowing it to steamroll forward, and it will, it's gonna plow us down and cast us aside as if we're just irrelevant.
You
And
could ultimately say that many of the things that we're witnessing is basically a systematic removal of the expressions of natural law, because natural law is our birthright and it is the key to to the success that we wish to generate in order to obtain freedom.
Yeah,
That
people
this
just
is why all of these aspects are being eroded, and successfully, in my opinion. You know, you can
yeah,
mention natural law to even members of the truth community, and you get blank looks, and
even now.
that's sad, but it's true. I remember trying to uh, early on in the health emergency nonsense. I was trying to give presentations on natural law to truth communities, and it was I may as well have talked to a wall. It wasn't registering because, and again, I'm not trying to be trying to be critical of members of the truth community, but that knowledge of and understanding wasn't yet established,
Yeah.
and it needs to be. So again, we need to raise our game. This needs
Well,
to be common knowledge.
I mean, so the reason I met you is because you came to Billingham to do a talk, a presentation, and
Mm-hmm.
at the time, I mean, it was a good turnout actually. I mean, we did have a whole room full of people at this point,
Yeah,
um, and you know, I think you got really good response to your presentation,
yeah. Always
but
did
but
at
yeah.
in Teesside.
But how the thing that I did notice is like I mean I think the reason that we got talking in the first place is because after you'd given your presentation I'm like I mean clearly I knew what you were talking about because we've both been familiarized with the subject with certain
Mm-hmm.
people in the movement with Mark Passio we've understood we took the time
Yeah,
but looking around the room and I'm just thinking there's like one or two others maximum in this room that has a
mm-hmm.
single clue what he's talking about I mean
Yeah,
like and that's not to be dismissive or critical about the
yeah,
people
yeah,
in the room. There's a
yeah,
lot of good people in those groups that we used to associate with, and so this is not a criticism. But I was alarmed at the fact that most people had never even come across this. Like, not they haven't even considered a lot of this.
yeah,
It just that I did find it alarming, and I thought actually, well, thank God that somebody has come along to do a presentation, and I'm not the only one in an isolated community that seems to be aware of this stuff, you know. And
yeah.
it was a breath of fresh air, and you did it really really well, and it's so I just again I know the other groups that you're referring to, one in particular, which has got a massive
Mm-hmm.
um follow. I don't know if it's. I mean, I assume it's still a massive venue, maybe if you want to call it that.
Yes, I mean I've seen, even though I think attendance at that place has dropped a little bit, I've
Mm.
seen Facebook comments saying, and I'm pretty sure I might be mistaken, that it's the number one truth venue in the world.
You
So
are joking.
I'm
Please tell me you're
I
joking.
I might be slightly mistaken. I'd have to reread it, but I'm pretty sure it was something along those lines. I'm like, oh well, we're screwed.
Okay.
If that's the case, we're
Uh,
screwed.
if that's the largest truth group in the world, mate, we're in serious deep shit
Yeah.
here. I mean, this is.
But I have to say that was the venue where it was literally it was tumbleweed when trying to discuss natural law material. And again, I'm not trying to be disparaging because ultimately I want the truth movement to gain success. But
Yeah.
if I mean, it was a benchmark of certainly showing me where we need to generate this information better. We need to do a better job of trying to get this
Well,
material across.
okay. I mean, well, yeah, okay. That's a fair assessment. I mean, Holly often tells me it's like I'm. Well, how does she describe me? I'm not dismissive, but like contentious. She says that I'm contentious towards the movement. Now, from my personal perspective, it's like, well, I don't feel like I am being contentious. But then you look back at some of the stuff that you've come out and said, and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I did say that a bit mean, or maybe I was a bit
Yeah,
aggressive with that. But it's the problem is the disconnect there is it. Yes, it might come across as contentious, but to me, it's a passion, I guess. I really want people to understand this. I really want them to be aligned with this because I want us to succeed. I want
yeah,
this
yeah.
this tyranny to be taken down,
Yeah, I'm
completely.
exactly the same. I'm contentious. I'm probably disparaging to many people in the truth movement, but I'm just putting my soldier's hat on when I say that we are combat ineffective. That means we're going to get our asses kicked. We are getting
We're
our
getting
asses
our
kicked.
asses kicked, mate. We've
Uh,
had our asses kicked
yeah,
repeatedly for the last,
and not only
well,
that, because we know what the key decisive level of understanding is in order to gain a foothold in this battlefield. If without it, well, we're fighting a losing battle. We can't entertain ourselves anymore in conspiracy junk and expect to suddenly come into a great awakening with no homework. It's nuts. And again, I would like to, again, and I have done, but in more depth, I will hopefully add more kind of battlefield logistics and the mindset of combat in order to bring us to that to become effective combatants worthy of a fighting chance at least.
yeah.
But we need to develop some sort of understanding of how warfare is conducted, and just because it's a spiritual war doesn't mean that we just keep our fingers crossed and pray for the blue avians and the fifth dimension's just going to come down on a moonbeam. It's not. And again, hopefully we've discussed that enough for people to at least realize that they've screwed up with that understanding and need to move on from it.
Well, it'd be nice. I mean, okay, so I mean, I'm all for improving our methods. There is always room for improvement. I'll accept that. I'm not perfect by any measure, and I didn't exactly set out to do this. This wasn't in my
Yeah,
oh, I think I'll be
exactly.
this when I'm older. I mean, I quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
I've got no problem doing it, but equally there's room for improvement. However, I just before we skip to the next project, I was going to say, ironically, you mentioned the New Age movement there and our methods. One of our most watched videos with probably the highest amount of positive feedback is our Saki video,
Oh, is it? Yeah. Maybe we
which
should
makes
do
me
more of
chuckle,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Because
We'll do
honestly,
more of that, I think.
oh mate, we've got to do more, right? I've got a friend called Wayne, so Wayne Burdett, I'm giving you a shout out, mate, because you're awesome. But he sent me a message after he watched it, and he went, "An hour and a half of sarcasm, impressive." It was just like, what?
We were just getting warmed up.
Oh, I mean, mate, but he was just like, no, seriously, I'm impressed. You
Oh,
kept that going for an hour and a half of just like 100% sarcasm. Well done. Uh, so, but no, we've had a bit of interesting feedback for that, and I've got to say, I mean, we lost 2 subscribers for it, but I
oh
think
well.
I think we made a lot of people chuckle. So I suspect
Yeah.
the people that we lost are potentially new ages that believed in the Blue Avians and the Galactic Federation of bullshit.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
well,
moving on.
hopefully they'll come back. Let's go on to the next slide. So, well, that's quite fitting because we talked about spiritual warfare, and I mean, if we were to elaborate on that, well, if were to look at, let's just say a snapshot of what the problems are we're facing. Well, let's have a look at this. We have spiritual problems rooted in consciousness, which are maintained by a level of ignorance. But if we were to dissect the meanings of what these words actually mean, well, spirituality, you could deduce. I mean, it means many things, but it relates to freedom, because if we're not free in our expressions, well, how can we be spiritual beings if we can't even express our own, our own minds, our own
Yeah.
emotions, our own physical abilities? This is all about freedom. Consciousness is probably easier to understand in terms of a definition. Again, not that this is a massive definition, but it relates ultimately to perception.
Yeah.
Consciousness is about, what we know about the world, what we know about ourselves. It's perception. Ignorance, again, easy to kind of define. It relates ultimately to a lack of knowledge. So if we can improve upon knowledge and improve upon perception, we can use that as key decisive, let's just say, weapons of spiritual warfare to fight for that level of freedom that we require. And of course, all of these aspects, spirituality, consciousness, and knowledge, all relates to occultism in general. Occult.
You've got a cult knowledge there.
Oh, have I?
Oh no, I like you
Oh,
should leave
crikey, yeah.
that.
Just noticed that. That's yeah, that's a good
See?
little typo. Well
Oh, I
spotted.
like it. I like it. But again, right. So obviously we're on the same page where this is. I mean, we're absolutely aligned on this. So we've got our own little echo chamber here. But look, I mean, the way I like to look at it is at least we understand the subject, right? At least we understand the consequences of it.
Mm,
And we try and feed that out. And it comes up again. It's conscience, it's consciousness, it's perception, right? It's to me one of the solutions here is going back to the whole stagnation principle is if what you're doing is not working for you, if you're not learning, if you're not progressing, if you're not evolving, something's gone wrong somewhere, right? So and a lot of that is to do with consciousness and perception, right? So change the way that you look at the world, change the way that you look at yourself, change the way that you behave. Look at your own behaviors and look at the effects that's having. Look at, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with that. And people feel disempowered. But you can change yourself, right?
yeah,
People say that people never change, right? It's people can't change. I did. I mean, massively. I am completely now a different person to who I was at school, to who I was at college, to who I was when I first started work, to who I was when I worked in the bureau, to who I was, right, etc., etc., etc. I've changed that many times because I've looked at myself, I've taken an introspective, critical look and gone, I don't like that, and that. That's got to change, right? And so anybody that feels disempowered that they can't change the world, you can, but it's got to start in here. It's got to start with you.
mm,
It's got to start with yourself, right? And that you can do. But people say that you can't change. You can. You just got to want to do it, right? You've got to want to do it badly. You've got to understand that if if you are committing harm, or if the problem, if what your actions are causing problems and things like that, then that is something that directly relates to you. So look at yourself critically, look at how you behave critically, look at your consciousness, look at your perceptions, and how do you see the world? Because if you're not, over the years, if you're not changing your views, and I don't mean maybe as drastically as I have, but again, if you still got the same views, the same outlooks as you did when you were 12-year-old, then you've not learnt much, right? There's been a poor progression
yeah,
that's stalled, right? Why haven't you changed? Why haven't you progressed? Why are you still maintaining the same views, the same beliefs, the same ideologies?
yeah,
Why haven't you challenged that? Because
yeah,
nobody's perfect, right? And I'm sure as hell not perfect, but what I can say is I'm better than I was. I'm better than that.
yeah,
And hopefully in 5 years from now, I'll have changed again. I'll have adjusted. I'll have acquired new knowledge, new skill sets, and I'll be better than I am now. That's what you can do. That's a real ability that people have right now. You can start it tonight. And again, Mark Passio has gone into detail with this in his shadow work
yeah.
seminar, which was absolutely outstanding, by the
Oh,
way.
yeah.
So
I mean, I've looked back on that probably about 5 times. So that's about
yeah.
50 hours of of viewing that particular presentation, listening to it in the background. I, I mean, I was originally massively hooked on his natural law presentation, which
Yeah.
was about 8 or 9 hours. I think this probably even surpasses that in terms of,
Yeah. Well,
the
he put everything in it.
importance.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know he was exhausted by the end of it, but I'm just thinking he's taken everything from
Hmm.
from the past 10 years and bundled it into one presentation. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know how he's done that. I mean, I really don't know how he's done that. But again, the whole point to that is this is something that everyone can do. This is something that's not disempowering. This is absolutely empowering. You've got to
Yeah.
look at what we call it the shadow work or introspection or personal assessment things, whatever you want to look at this as. Everyone's got a dark side. Everyone's got aspects that they don't like about themselves, and okay, start there.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Do you
right?
know,
I'm gonna.
it's not even just that. You could just say most people in the world have accepted the fact that government is a necessary part of the structure of society. I mean, I want it completely abolished. Yet I used to work for it. In fact, the job I had was essentially one of the coolest jobs on the planet, and now I want that abolished completely. And I'll criticize it 100% as well. I want it abolished. Yet a million young men would almost give their left arm to have done, had that as a career choice. It, this is how powerful the mind can be. We can be massively brainwashed into a world view, a poisoned worldview, where we accept immorality and not even give it a second thought. And ultimately, with a little bit of introspective work, such as Mark Passio's shadow work, and again, it's not exclusive to him, but his seminar, that 10-hour seminar on shadow work, was, again, I think that is definitely something everyone in the truth community needs to put as a priority in their kind of truth gathering, truth knowledge base. It needs to be done. It needs to be accomplished, as I have done. And again, this is how I changed, by doing the introspective work and realizing that, shit, I got it all completely wrong. What a dumbo.
Yeah.
Shucks. Then I've got over myself, worked upon myself, and realized that I can actually do something to improve myself. And if I do so, I can help to improve others, and ultimately the world can stand a chance of coming into some sort of improvement as well. So it is massively important. So I would actually massively, at this juncture, definitely recommend Mark Passio's 10-hour shadow work seminar. Don't be put off by the fact it's 10 hours. Like I say, I must have listened to that about 5 times since it came out in November. And I know me and you and my missus were watching that in November last year when it
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah. And it was worth every second, I tell you. I mean,
Yeah,
I think I took about 15 pages of notes
you
from that.
did, mate. Yeah,
Can I just, so you've just reminded me that just in what you said, I've done a quick internet search there because I can't remember
yeah,
it from memory, only bits of it. Um, there's a few quotes right from the Matrix of all things. Here, quote one: "The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside it, you look around and what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, and carpenters. The very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and it makes them our enemy." That's one of the
yeah. Love it.
that's one of the quotes. There's another one about being so completely inured by the system that they'll fight to defend it to the death, and it's like I can't quite find that one.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's you just reminded me of that when you were saying what you were saying there, and it's like people are they're blinded by it. They're blinded by the idea that we need a government because, well, what would we do without one? They're blinded by, well, what would we do without the church authorities? What would we do without big pharma? What would we do without the doctor telling us how to live our life? And we have to come in for our checkups. And it's like,
yeah,
actually, try not doing just again. I'm not telling. Look, if you want to be dependent on big pharma and vaccines and stuff, be my guest. Do what you got to do. Right. That's not my decision to make. That's up to other people. Right. But if you're afraid of what might happen if these institutions were taken away from you, try doing without them for a bit and just see what happens, right? I mean, I grew up with television and soap operas, and the households that I grew up in, it was very very TV centric, right? It was very mainstream TV. The news was always on. The soap operas were always there was always the telly on. The last 10 years, I thought, I don't want anything to do with that. I mean, it was before, I mean, it's a long time before that I stopped watching soap operas, but I used to watch the news as if it was, oh, I have to watch this, right? And one day I'm just thinking, well, all they're doing is repeating the same story over and over and over and over again. Uh, and yet they're not really telling you anything. They're just telling you the bits that they want you to know, but they're not giving you the full story. And I'm thinking, well, what happens if I just turn it off then and don't take any notice of it? And I did, and I've never regretted it. I've just turned it off and just thought, well, I don't miss it. In fact, when you do turn it off, when you do walk away from these institutions and these things that we're being brainwashed with, you just think, why the hell are people so hopelessly attached to these things? And again, the doctors, I've not been to the doctors for I've lost count. I mean, a lot of years, and they keep sending me every year. They'll be like, "Oh, you have to come for your jabs. You have to come for your monitoring appointments. You have to come for this. You have to come for that." And my response is, "No, I don't. No, if I need you, I'll come to you.
yeah,
When I'm ill, I will come to you. You're a doctor. You're not supposed to tell me how to live my life. You're supposed to be there to help me with my health and to make sure that I don't get ill. And when that happens, then I'll consider coming to you. But a lot of this again, I know I seem to be going off track a little bit, but when we're in about people being stuck in the system, and they're anchored to it, and they can't seem to see beyond that. Well, okay, just challenge yourself, just step away from it. Just even if you're not certain it's the right thing to do, just take a little gap from it. Just walk away from it for a little bit. See what happens. Because a lot of the things that you think you can't do without, you can absolutely do without, and you'll be healthier for it. You'll be better off for it. You'll be
Yeah.
happier for it. Your health will improve because of it. You'll have more time. You'll have more energy. It's just, and I'm not just on about, doctors and TV and stuff like that. I'm just whatever you think that you have to do in life, whatever's anchoring you to a paradigm, just challenge yourself to walk away from it and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's you don't if you want to go back to it, go back to it. If you're not ready for it, that's fine. But at least try. Just see what happens. Test it. Test the
Yeah.
theory. Anyway,
I
there you
mean,
go.
looking at some of the words on the slide, and with that thought in mind, essentially, ignorance is the thing that keeps us bound to the matrix.
Yeah.
Consciousness is the thing that will help us perceive what the matrix is, and when we can identify it as the problem that we've got, then we can do the decisive actions. And again, part of that might just be coming into that introspective shadow work in order to work on our own mind state in order to take the necessary actions to extricate ourselves and become, achieve this freedom thing. But again, I don't know if you can see it on the screen there, but that the kid in the center of the screen
Yeah.
has the TV on his head saying,
Yeah.
"We are a brainwashed generation. We are brainwashed." And when we acknowledge that, accept it, and take action against it, that's when the brainwashing starts to dissipate. And I was massively brainwashed. But, it's a thing, and we don't, it's a subconscious thing. You might not even realize you were
Hmm.
brainwashed. That's how good the brainwashing is.
Well, I mean, let's take that. So I wouldn't even say it's. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of brainwashing, but let's distinguish brainwashing from conditioning, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like a shampoo commercial now. But in order for them to mind control somebody, and this is where the brainwashing comes in, they need to take that person's mind and wipe it. Like they need to just completely wipe it clean. This is where, when you say salvate coagula,
Mm.
it's so where is it? Dissolve and reform. How does that
Yeah, pretty much. Breakdown
break
reform.
down and
Yeah.
reform? Thank
Yeah.
you. Right. And so this is how the military do it. This is how they do it in the police. This is how they do it in your educational
Hmm.
institutions, right? They take you, the individual, the unique individual, they break you down to a base level. And then so this is where this is the brainwashing, right? So you can call it a
Hmm.
breakdown if you want to. You can call it reprogramming. You can call it conditioning, right? So basically, they take you, the individual. They then take they take any kind of uniqueness away from you and level it. Not always, but
Hmm.
some people can get through it without that happening. Some people are intelligent enough to see what's happening. But once they've got you at that baseline, once they've got you on that, blank slate, that's when the problem starts because then they can fill you with their paradigm, with their perceptions, with their ideologies, right? And this is where it gets very, very dangerous, especially in like educational institutions are very worrying at the minute because they've got far
Hmm.
too much authority and overreach, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. I mean, it is literally the state are now in control of your kids.
Oh yeah.
Not only that, but college students and university students, they're being brainwashed just as much as anyone
Oh
else.
yeah. Massively. Yeah.
But even if you don't do that, it's just whatever if you do go into some kind of um mainstream establishment or institution, they're going to do this to you no matter what. I mean, again, not everyone falls for it, thank God, but we're all in a way we've all been conditioned. It's just that ideally we need to snap out of it, and the only way to
Yeah.
snap out of it is to
Exactly.
realize that's taken place in the first place. We let's realize what's happened, dispense with ignorance, right? I mean, take the word ignorance. What does it mean? It means to ignore, right? It's yes, it is a lack of knowledge, but it is also you are choosing to ignore that, right? That's
Yeah.
something that you just, oh, I'll bypass that because I'm not interested. It doesn't affect me, blah. Well, then you're choosing ignorance, which
Hmm.
means you're going to pay the price for it later on. I did. Again, I'm nowhere near, perfect by any measure. Um, I was probably one of the most mind-controlled idiots on the planet, and probably one of the most selfish as well. But again, I paid the price for that. But it's good. It's good. It puts you in dissonance. It makes you question. It makes you
Yeah.
challenge yourself, and hopefully, what comes out of that is a better version of you, is a better, is it's an improvement, it's an evolution, and then
Yeah,
hopefully you
exactly.
can then start to develop things.
And that's the
Society,
important thing, because again, we're not trying to strive for perfection. I mean,
no, well, it's not
it's
possible anyway.
impossible. It's impossible, but betterment for sure, and
Yeah,
individual betterment. I'd like to think that I've bettered myself because I'm now more conscious. I've perceiving things, and I'm less ignorant to how I used to be. So automatically, that ensures that at least my sort of spiritual presence is being improved upon,
yeah.
and that's what we need to be able to achieve on an individual level.
Mate, you're an absolute credit to the movement. I mean, again, you've got skills, you've got knowledge, you've got experience, you've got expertise. People, but people don't want to listen to that. They
Mm.
don't, they seem unwilling to want to learn from that. Well, all right. Well, when you're
Yeah.
ready, we'll
And,
still be doing this in one way
but
or another.
yeah, a takeaway from this is occult knowledge is a solution. And if I was to look at the next slide, is that coming up okay, mate?
Say again, mate.
You seeing that all right? Is that
Yeah,
slide
it's
coming up
fine. It
okay?
stuttered a little bit when the slide came on, but it's fine now. Yeah, it's
Right,
everything's
okay,
working
mate.
fine. Yeah, good.
Happy days. Well, right at the top there, it's important to realize that a problem cannot be fixed from the same level of consciousness that created it. Therefore, higher consciousness is a predetermined necessity towards development and freedom. And as we've just said there, that doesn't mean we're all trying to become like Buddha or Krishna or Christ. We're just trying to strive for betterment,
Yeah,
betterment of ourselves internally, because that is always reflected by the external world. And hopefully, this slide will help to give some context to these two
yeah,
worlds, if you like, the inner and the
yeah.
outer worlds. So
Go for it.
what is occultism? Well, occultism or the occult simply means hidden. And what knowledge does occultism hide? Again, not necessarily deliberately, but in a lot of cases, knowledge of the occult is important simply because it will help us generate the freedom we want, as we keep saying. But what does it comprise of? Well, it comprises of two bodies of knowledge, or it hides these two bodies of knowledge. We could call one the lesser or the minor arcana or the microcosm, which relates to the inner world,
Yep.
which is knowledge of the self, the human psyche, and of course, how the mind operates. And the other body of knowledge is the major or the greater arcana, which is the macrocosmic side or the outer world, which is knowledge of things like natural law, which is moral law, and the physical sciences.
Yep.
So the inner and the outer worlds or realms or principles is what we are effectively being shielded from. And of course, why? If these things were irrelevant, why would anybody take determined effort to conceal these from other people? Why? Simply because this will regain the power balance, the power differential that will help us on the battlefield towards fighting for freedom. But there can be no positive change in the world unless more people have the desire to see change and also have the care to enable it. Progress on the path to higher knowledge is an essential component, but this can never be achieved unless we become active participants in the world and affect our intent upon it through our actions. And our actions need to be rooted within the context of the two bodies of occult knowledge, based upon an unpolluted intent and laid upon a foundation of moral principle. So we can see that these two bodies of knowledge are, it's imperative that we come to grips with it as a body of people. Again, wider society, essentially, this shouldn't just be something that the truth movement come to terms with and recognize. This needs to
Mm.
be assimilated by, you could say, the wider population. But the power of, worldview poisoning, the power of the process of education and all the other methods of propaganda and brainwashing cultures and populations have driven us to essentially have very, very limited knowledge or appreciation of what the occult is. In fact, even as at this current day, there's many people in the truth community. As soon as you mention the word occult, they run for the hills and think that you're basically going to be sacrificing chickens in the woods. It's almost embarrassing that we're still at that level.
Yeah. But again, actually, there's a couple of things on this one. Again, how do you get them to change their view of the occult? I mean, look, I attend a church, and I'm pretty sure if that particular church figured out that, I was writing books on occultism and doing
Yeah,
podcasts on occultism, I might have a few problems there. And yet, I'm not an occultist.
yeah,
I'm not dabbling in dark arts and stuff like that. I'm simply looking into the subject to see
yeah,
what I can learn from it. And actually, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, when it comes to demonism and Satanism and witchcraft and stuff, no thanks. I mean, tell me about it. I want to know how it works,
yeah.
because I think it's it's valuable for us to understand how that dynamic can affect things, and like what it's interwoven into, and how, I mean, it's yes, that is absolutely an aspect of it, but all we're doing is looking at knowledge that's been hidden, and the reason it's been hidden is because it's empowering, right? This
Yeah,
is, again, we're just looking at the two tarot cards there with the microcosm and the macrocosm, right? It's looking at within and without. It's looking at our place within the universe,
yeah,
and how our path, if you like, and our actions and behaviors affect, again, both ourselves and those around us and the world at large. So there's that, but again, people are going to form their opinions. They're going to form their biases, and the idea of this particular podcast, or at least one of the ideas of this podcast in our Cult Academy group, is to kind of show that that's not the case. It doesn't have to be like that. That
yeah,
actually there's a lot more to this. It's not what people think it is, and there's a hell of a lot to learn from it. It's not evil. It's not. Again, yes, there is a dark part. There is a dark angle to that,
yeah, of
but
course.
that's not what we're about. And then right at the bottom of the presentation slide there that you've got, based upon an unpolluted intent. I mean, that is, bro. Did you write that yourself?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, that is very apt, because our minds are polluted to the core at the minute. We're
yeah.
polluted with
Oh, yeah,
misinformation. We're
yeah,
polluted with
exactly.
propaganda and all of this stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, we have been polluted. And then, sorry to
No,
talk
no,
over you,
for it, mate.
not to, sorry, I don't mean to be, but then you've also put, and laid upon a foundation of moral principle, and that is exactly the point that we're trying to get across.
Yeah.
A moral foundation is the foundation of all of the foundations. This is the rock we build our temples on.
Hmm.
I mean, that's as simple as it gets. I mean, from a solid foundation, you get a solid building, right? And so morality and occult knowledge, it's not just occult knowledge. I mean, you take, provable scientific knowledge, historical knowledge, in any field, engineer, whatever your thing is, you take absolute knowledge that we can prove and rely upon. That is a solid principle. That is a solid foundation, right? And if
Yeah,
you put this together upon a base of morality and build upon that, I can't see a downside to it, actually, at
exactly.
all. There is no downside to it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're expanding on this, or just picking the bones out of this in a little bit more depth, I think one thing that I get the impression some people maybe get trapped upon is when you
Mm.
talk about morality, and most people will, and I'm generalizing here, but most people will see themselves as morally good people, and I'm not disputing that, but
Mm.
it's the bit about objective morality is having a very, very firm understanding of what morality actually is. And again, part of this presentation does go into that in a little bit more depth. But it's not just enough to be, fundamentally, I'm a decent person, or thinking that we're a decent person. We'll have to basically be a decent person by realizing evil in all of its forms. And sadly, that's the bit that it's not yet common knowledge. We haven't assimilated that objective morality bit as a society or a species as yet, because we seem to think that, oh well, I pay my taxes, and I'm going to vote differently at the next elections. I don't necessarily agree with this government policy, but I'm going to vote for somebody who's going to then change, the course of history because he's, this, that, and the
Well,
other.
because that always works, doesn't it?
Exactly, and this is the part where you know, this is the part where the worldview has to change because government will never ever cater for objective morality. Again, I don't necessarily think this presentation goes into it so much, but if we are still caught up in the political paradigm and we're thinking that politics is the answer, well, sorry, politics is essentially the beast system. We have to escape the matrix of the beast system. We have to realize that governance, authority, and politics is the antithesis to freedom and morality.
I was going
Again,
to
it's
say it's a massive conflict of interest to
yeah,
expect the government to do what's right and to do what's necessary because it's the right thing to do. That's gonna scupper their plans.
yeah, and
There's
that, I mean,
no way they're gonna do that. That's why there's so much
yeah.
corruption in there.
I have to say, and again, I don't know everybody in the truth community, but I certainly know from what I see on forums and discussions and the likes, and talking to people, face to face, is politics is still something that many truthers are still trapped in. And I mean, I'm quite rude at times. I'll basically say, how can you actually be a truther and think politics is a solution? What, you're absolutely insane. But again, we've got to come out of that poisoned worldview, that brainwashing that's led us into that belief, because it's a religious cult-like belief. And then if we have got that polluted intent because we still think politics and governance and authority is a potential answer, then again, we are not in the right frame of mind. We need, we need more knowledge of the self. We need to, and we need more knowledge of the universe, the natural laws, in order to come to correct conclusions based on the truth, based upon principles. It's not an easy thing because, again, how many people talk, you know, philosophy at a high level, or really interesting sort of
Yeah.
philosophical discussions. For,
Not many, I suspect. I mean,
yeah,
again, I mean, you and I do talk about philosophy. I mean, it's one of my main interests. And again, I don't necessarily just pick up a philosophy book and say, "Oh, I'm going to delve into this." But there is a lot in there to consider that's
mm,
worth delving into. Um, shall we? How are we doing for time? Hang on, before I say what I'm going to say. What we're doing for time, right? Shall we leave the presentation there for today and follow that up again Sunday, maybe?
yeah, I'm happy with that, mate. Yeah,
So because I mean that's a good slide to end on, but
yeah,
there's something else I want to go into. So I'm not ending the discussion. I want to bring something up that's linked into this. But again, there is a cause for concern as far as I'm concerned. Do you want to put us on the screen?
yes, mate.
There we go. Right. So you just mentioned, right. So again, we often bash the truth movement, or however you want to say that. We often bash the love and light movement and all of that stuff. All right. So here's a question for you then. How do you define right? How do you define a truther, a truth seeker, and the truth movement? So let's look into this and let's see if we can
Mm.
figure out where the problem is actually coming from, because it's an interesting point, isn't it? So first of all, how do we define a truther? I mean, I know what I would define it as, but
Well, I would, if I was to give a general understanding of that or appraisal, I would say somebody who is interested in critical thought and will look deeper into the origins of information in order to come to a more effective and more rounded worldview.
right. Okay. So then, by that definition, how would you define a truth seeker?
Well, is is it not largely the same thing?
It is, but so I'm going to differentiate between the two, because what I've
Right?
noticed is there is a definite difference between, because if you go
Ah,
into
right. I think
right,
I know where you
yeah.
come to. Yeah,
So here's my point, right? So if you go into like YouTube, the internet, Reddit, not that I ever use Reddit, but equally, if you any number of these social media platforms or messaging boards or whatever,
yeah,
And there is an increasing number of people now identifying themselves as truthers,
Hmm.
right? And usually, what I'm seeing now, especially at the minute, is the ones that are saying that they're a truther. It's actually, well, actually, they're not really dealing with truth. They're dealing with specific subjects or topics that appeal to them, right? And a lot of
Yeah.
these topics, and again, without repeating myself, a lot of these are heavily influenced or based directly um, within psyop territory, right? I mean, a lot of these are we've got false history narratives, we've got worldview narratives, we've got again, take your pick. I mean, take any quadrant of Trutherville, right?
Mhm.
And so to be a truther to the internet, if I was to ask the AI or the internet, please explain to me what a truther is, and it'd probably say a conspiracy theorist or a bunch of extremists
Yeah.
that subscribe to magical thinking,
Yeah.
that subscribe to extreme views or niche views or things that
Delusional.
well, delusional,
Yeah.
or even, I mean, the more polite way of saying that is somebody who takes an alternative approach, or
Yeah.
somebody who's interested in alternative news or alternative media and things like that. Okay, that's a truther. Then it's defined itself. So the
Yeah.
term's not accurate, but it has defined itself. So then, okay, well, I'll accept that. So now let's look at the difference between a truther and a truth seeker. So I'd like to think that you and I are truth seekers, right? Because
Yeah.
I often say to people, just to give it context, I want the truth, right? I've got no agenda with this. I've got no preconceptions. I've got no belief systems that are, rock solid or anything. I've got opinions. I've got ideologies, but I don't like to subscribe to beliefs, right? I don't like the idea. A belief is a delusion. It's a self-accepted delusion. It's faith in a system that you can't prove or unwilling to look into, right?
Mhm.
I want the truth of something, right? And sometimes the truth of something is not what we think it is, even if we are looking in alternative media, we're looking at alternative information, alternative sources. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that what we come across is going to be the truth. In fact, a lot of the time, it's really, really not. It's a diversion, it's smoke and mirrors. It's Alice in Wonderland territory, and as interesting as that can be, and some of it's fascinating, but unfortunately, that's about as much as you can credit it with. It's interesting, it's curious, it's fascinating, but when you really look into some of this stuff, it's like, oh, that's not the truth. That is not people have, and a lot of the times it's a misunderstanding of science. A lot of the times it's a misunderstanding of history. It's something that's taken out of context. It's ignorance in a certain arena. It's ignorance of like, let's say, social affairs and political affairs. And it's oftentimes due to a bias or a belief being firmly crystallized or firmly entrenched that somebody's unwilling to challenge, right? They're unwilling to part with this. And so again, we've been on podcasts and chats that go with live shows and stuff like that. We've been part of groups that we see this discussion take place, and we've seen it. We've heard all the arguments, two and four, and they get right. And a lot of the times when somebody does come across and say, "Oh, well, I'm a truth. How can somebody believe that the Earth is still a globe?" It's like, well, when was the last time you challenged your own beliefs?
Mhm.
When was the last time you actually looked at those who are debunking the flat Earth, for example,
Mhm.
really listened to them? And if you do listen to them, if you don't get triggered by it, and if you don't get butthurt and offended and all of that, just listen to them. Just really listen. Don't go in with an attitude. Don't go in defensively.
Yeah.
I understand how people get entrenched in belief systems, and I know it triggers them if something comes counter to that and it puts them in cognitive dissonance. I understand that. But if you're not willing to challenge your views, if you're not willing to challenge your pre-existing knowledge or your existing paradigm, then you're
Yeah.
not willing to change your perception, your outlook. All right.
Yeah.
So my suggestion then is I don't want to be a truther, right? I want to be a truth seeker. I want to deal with the truth, and sometimes it's unpleasant. Sometimes I'm wrong. Um, Sometimes I've been misguided. Sometimes I've been led astray. Sometimes it's just a case of I've missed a few details, but I'm generally right, right? And
Yeah.
it's that I want the truth. And then we've got the truth movement, which to me makes me giggle because it's just not moving. The only way it's moving is round and round in circles, right? Because it's like a Catherine wheel. It's like a bunch of fireworks going off. We're all
Yeah.
going in different
Yeah.
directions, expecting to get forward, further forward. It's like, well, you're never going to progress because nobody's actually moving collectively in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I
And
know
do
it
you know what?
sounds.
Do you know what? I think a lot of people in the truth movement, I mean, I might be completely wrong, but I get the impression a lot of people realize that
Mm,
within that movement and have kind of sadly come to a bit of a lull where they've become a little bit apathetic as a result because it's like we're not moving forward. Well, what do we do? Well, we'll just resign ourselves to taking a lull in the battle because what else do we do? We're not sure of the
mm.
direction to head. We're lost, you know.
Exactly. But can I? So right, sorry, I know, I went off on a bit of a rant there, but the reason I brought that up is because you mentioned that a lot of, again, truthers, if you want to use that word, that you've come into contact with, and again, I've come into contact with many of the same people, and they are falling for things that it's like, well, I thought we'd figured out that that was the wrong direction to move in. Like, say, for example, you mentioned politics.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and they'll say, "Oh, well, it's all corrupt," but there's a new guy in the scene, and he's really going to do the work, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he really means change. And it's like, yeah, but this individual is coming from exactly the same place as all the previous politicians.
yeah,
He's educated by the same institutions. He's got the same general outlook. He's
yeah,
not really dealing with the real problems that we're facing under the subliminal problems, if you want to. Let's call it the agenda that's been tucked under and operating behind everything. What's he going to do about that? What is he going to call certain things out? Is he going to call certain people out, certain movements, certain agendas? Is he going to do that? Because until that happens, I don't trust anyone in the arena of politics. Because to me, that it's constant smoke and mirrors, it's constant bread and circuses. It's distract the masses, give them a little bit of hope, get their vote, keep the system in place. And when you said it there, and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of people that still do adhere to the things that I thought we'd snapped out of, in the truth movement. I thought we'd snapped out of a lot of this stuff. I
yeah.
thought we'd been warned against AI, right?
Mhm.
And so hear me out on this one because I know the arguments two and four, and I get that, right? And I just take this for what it is. There are certain people in the public arena, such as David Icke, and he's been saying for years, and he really has been saying this for years, right? He's been saying this for the last 30 years, and now it's here, right?
Mhm.
And then people are accusing him of being a shill. It's like, well, you're not taking the warnings that he's
Yeah,
presented you with. He was warning you that AI is going to present itself. You're all going to become addicted to it. It's going to take over, and the next thing you're going to have a microchip in your hand or in the forehead, and you're not going to be able to do anything without some kind of device. For example, wearables and implantables, right? And so then he progressed on to saying, the AI will do your thinking for you. Well, what
Mhm.
are we seeing?
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah,
right, so again, I don't want to discuss the merits
yeah.
there
I'm
are
not.
positives and negatives to AI. I'm not. It's here. There's nothing I can do about that, right? But we should at least be heeding the warnings that go with this,
Mhm.
because the next step is it will do your thinking for you, and it's already started.
Oh,
You ask,
yeah,
right, if you go to somebody, and again, especially truthers now, you can ask a truther, you can ask a normie, you can ask a teenager, oh, what's the answer to this, or where would I find this? And the first thing they do is they go onto the search engine, the AI based search
yeah,
engine, and
yeah,
they ask the AI. Well, the
yeah.
AI can hallucinate apparently. So again, credit to Wayne Burdett for telling me that one because it was hilarious. But it hallucinates answers. And what I mean by that is it's not entirely truthful. And if it's not entirely truthful, it's not entirely reliable, but it is
Mhm.
doing your thinking for you. It's
Mhm.
answering your questions. It's stopping you from researching. You're not investigating for yourself anymore. You're not reading books anymore. You're shortcutting yourself straight to your
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
AI, what does it say? Well, that's problematic. And yet truthers are just as guilty of this as anyone else. And I'm not saying not to use it. I'm saying don't become reliant upon it. Don't allow it to do the basic tasks of investigation.
Yeah.
And
It,
it's the basics.
as a rule, and again, I'm not necessarily trying to have a pop at AI. I mean,
Mm,
I agree with you. There's pros and minuses to it,
yeah,
but if something takes our thinking away from us, and it then saves us the bother, because let's face it, we like to take the easy option. I'm sure we
yeah,
all do that at times. We've taken the easy option with the
yeah,
likes of government, and what's that led to? Wars, tyranny, mass death, you know,
yeah.
ridiculous health emergencies, bogus scientific claims with climate nonsense. because we've allowed a word or an organization, government, the word which means mind control, to control our minds, so that we don't have to think for ourselves because we've got a
Right.
bunch of idiotic psychopaths who do it for us, and then they tell us how to live our lives. And again, we're doing that same thing on a technical basis to a computer system, which is probably largely driven by the needs and benefits that these same idiotic psychopaths are hoping to achieve out of it. We do have to be on our guard, and we have to become more human and not forget that, we need to keep. I mean, again, as we progress in the presentation, we'll talk about exercising our own conscience. And if we are in a state of moral relativism because we've allowed our core understanding to be superseded by something other form of authority, and then we don't fully understand things cognitively, well, then our minds aren't in the right position to be able to achieve any physical effects. Again, these are all parts of occult. These are philosophical principles in the occult that, again, we're ignoring. We seem to think that we're still trapped in the delusion of the occult's all about evil and witchcraft, and all of this nonsense. When really, well, yes, it's also about moral philosophy. And if you ain't got that, what have you got? If you ain't
Right.
got morality and understand it at a deep level, be prepared to absolutely lose this spiritual war.
Well, all right. Well, let's build upon something you just said there. Let's see if we can dispel another illusion here, right? Let's, as Passio would say, let's try and demystify this one, right? Let's take witchcraft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one, witchcraft is not what people think it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yes, it does have a negative connotation attached to it all the
Yeah,
way through history. However, witchcraft is more about herbalism and living naturally, and
yeah,
about being in touch with nature and the natural world, and being aligned to that and balanced with it, and understanding
yeah,
how that works, how the cycles work, how the sun and the moon work, how the seasons work. That's witchcraft.
yeah,
All right. I'm not about the dark, dark witchcraft and evil
yeah, yeah.
witchcraft and stuff like that. Let's take witchcraft for what it is. And if you look at it through history, actually, witches were the victims, right? These
Mm-hmm.
were dudes were dispossessed, disempowered, brutally murdered, removed from society because they had knowledge that was helpful to people, right?
Yeah, yeah,
They were just people who had knowledge of herbs and survival. I mean, you're a forager.
mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah,
a survivalist and a skilled practitioner. You know nature. You understand how the cycles work. So
mm-hmm.
technically, then, does that make you a witch?
Yeah,
I've got a fair amount of knowledge on this, nowhere near the level that you're at. But does that make me a witch? Because if a witch is just simply somebody who's in touch with the natural world and understands, some of the secrets. Well, it's not even secrets. Just somebody who
yeah.
understands.
Understand nature.
Yeah, right. So okay. Well, let's. So is occult witchcraft then? Well, I guess it is from that perspective. I mean, yeah, okay. There's again, I'm not disputing that there's a darker side to that, or at least now. But historically, witches were very, very much the victims, and the best way that I can describe this is that it was the witches have been dispossessed because of a hostile takeover from the pharmaceutical industries, from
Yeah,
the Rockefellers and the Warburgs and things like that, that basically supplanted their technology, their medicines, their snake oil to,
yeah,
to remove their competition because they wanted the monopoly on that. And now look where it's got us.
yeah.
So all
Well,
right. Where's the negatives in witchcraft then, if that's what it is?
yeah,
Because as far as
yeah.
I can see, it's actually largely misunderstood.
Of course, yeah. Do you know, on a similar sort of theme, we could say, well, occultism. Well, it also you could say sorcery is an occult aspect.
Hmm.
Sorcery is about the suppression of human consciousness by using psychological tools. You know,
Oh, go on, yeah,
well,
because I can add
well,
to this one. Yeah, go for it.
yeah,
Go on.
well,
Yeah.
guess what? Guess who does that? The biggest perpetrators of sorcery using psychological tools for the suppression of human consciousness is the very thing that everybody pays into on a daily basis
Yeah.
and would probably fight to defend it. It's called the government, and the
It's not
word
only
itself
that, mate.
means mind control. Yet people, they can't get out of that. Well, do you know what? And just to cut you short there, because I know you were going to chip in with something, I
I'll
have to
carry on.
say this: the the government, the word which means mind control. Well, we're paying for this system. Where their power, the power that government seemingly possess, is entirely built upon total illusion. They do not have any power whatsoever at all without being able to completely mind control people into a delirious state of illusion. We've accepted illusion on a cultural, societal level to the point where it's ingrained in our worldview. I mean, we're ultimately the human race are absolutely insane because we
I'm
believe
not going
in
to argue
fairy
with
tales.
that.
We believe in a fairy tale which is actually a satanic death cult,
Yeah.
and then can't and then also profess to be decent people. It's absolutely insane. But
Well, okay, let's take it further because again, I agree with you where government's concerned, but let's look at one of their weaponized arms, right? Let's look at one of their like I don't want to keep using the word institution because I'm repeating myself, but you know, let's look at the media, right? That is it's a weaponized body of people
propaganda,
in propaganda, right? So what do you look into media and look at the terms that are associated with that.
yeah,
Right, and again, I opened it's one of the opening chapters of the books looks into all of this. Just the number of Greek philosophical again like sorcery terms that are
yeah,
linked into the media.
yeah,
I mean, the word media itself is a red flag because it's based on a goddess. You know, it's
yeah,
media. It's all about controlling your mind and focusing your attention and things like this, right? Well, all right, we want to talk about sorcery because if people don't like sorcery, well, then you might want to dispense with these things here, right? Because that's a scrying instrument. That's a
yeah.
black mirror,
Black
right?
Mirror.
You can talk to somebody the other side of the planet on one of these things. You
Mhm.
can find information out of these things. You can switch money around to these things. Is that not sorcery? And yet we're all doing it because we haven't got a choice at the minute, right? So are we going to put our scrying instruments down because it's a cult? Is that
Mhm.
what we're going to do? You know, and well, okay, let's look at what else is sorcery and witchcraft and what how would you define the New Age movement? Because they like to deal with manifestation, which in their opinion, and again I very much disagree with this, but let's look at it from their perspective. In their view, manifestation is the ability to twist and manipulate reality based on your thought waves and patterns and
Yeah.
vibration. So isn't so you're what they're basically suggesting is that they can manipulate reality from their thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a minute. That
And
sounds a
that's
bit like
it.
magic to me, that
Oh,
does.
only if it's positive thoughts.
Well, yeah, positive thoughts never address the negative, even though so here's the thing. A lot of the new age gurus, if you want to call them that, Elizabeth April, just saying, go and look at her. Nuts. She is a special kind of nuts, right? Seriously. I mean, she just takes the biscuit with the new age. I mean, there's a lot of people I could mention, but holy shit, right? She claims to be able to remote view, to commune with ascended masters, she convenes with the Galactic Council,
Oh
not
yeah.
in her body, of course. With her mind, she
Oh
projects
yeah,
it
yeah.
forward onto the moon and stuff like. Not a,
Yeah.
not a shred of evidence to support any of this shit
Yeah.
whatsoever. But don't worry, you've got to trust her because she's mentioning names and places, so she must be reliable because reasons. Well, I'm not being funny. But if you're popping out your mind, if you're popping out your body in regular occasions to convene with galactic aliens, hang
Yeah.
on a minute. Do you know what that sounds like? It sounds like witchcraft. I mean, sorcery. It sounds like real dark shit. Because what's to stop you from popping over into my bedroom and seeing what I get up to on the night time? Right? I'm not being funny, but if they're doing that, then that's a bit naughty, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
that's
if
a
they can
breach of
go,
trust.
if they
It's a
can go to the
breach of
Palladian galaxy, they can go. Can't they?
right. So all of these new ages that are saying the occult's evil, well, you might want to just take a little bit of an introspective look at what you're uh, suggesting here, because the way I see it is if you are doing this kind of manifestation work, not that I actually give it any credence because there's an element that they like to miss out of that.
Hmm.
Um, then what you're saying is that you are practicing magic. and you're doing it for your own benefit, if you're saying that you're remote viewing or that you're having out of body experiences because you want to go and travel the world and see what other people are getting up to, that to me suggests that you're being a bit naughty and it's all for selfish reasons. And I don't think that's in line with natural law. Do you?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So,
So
but again, if we want to talk about hypocrisy and truth and new age, oh, the occult's a dirty word. It's got bad words to it.
yeah,
All right. Well, then maybe just have a look at what you're doing before
it
you
goes.
start accusing us.
Yeah, it goes back to that. The law of mentalism and the unpolluted
Yeah.
mindset. And if we're polluting our mindset with new age bunk, delirious political nonsense, and we believe that the illusion of power, the fake illusion of power, which doesn't actually exist, yet we all adhere to it because we can't seem to escape it out of our head space. Well, how are we going to lay a positive foundation upon the world to build up that staircase towards freedom? No, yeah, we're not. We need to literally clear our heads of bullshit.
It's a collective delusion, isn't it? Let's
Yeah,
face it, we are in a collective delusion, right? And I include myself in that because nobody can fully escape this, right?
yeah,
We're all attached to it. We're all anchored by it in some way, shape, or form. Are we all right to end it in about 2 minutes?
yeah, mate, yeah.
Because
Uh-huh.
it's getting a bit late. It's not, I mean, I'm fine to go on a little bit longer if you want to. So I'm conscious of the
No,
time
mate,
because
let's
I want to get a
end
few
it up.
more.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
but oh, what was I going to say there? I've lost it now. I was on something there. No bollocks.
We're having a rant about the truth movement again. Oops.
Well, again, it's just one of those things. It's like maybe just just again, there's a critical thinking. Just consider your own actions before you start judging others. And as far as I mean, good God, you want to talk about being judgmental? New Ages. I mean, they are like the most judgmental people going.
We
It's
should do
very
a
unpleasant.
separate show just on the New Age movement because I
I
must
mean, I'm all
admit,
for that. I mean,
it's
mate, we've
my
got fucking buckets of material for that one. So,
yeah,
so right, I remember what I was going to say. God,
yeah,
I tell you what, right, my memory's going. It's got to be. I don't know why it's going. It's usually all right, but right. So, one of the things I concluded with Fake Awake, and I think I've mentioned this to you a couple of times, is when you look at people's behaviors and you contrast that to mindset, you contrast that to mental health conditions, you
mhm,
contrast that to beliefs and ideologies, you contrast that with polarizing dialectics and political affiliations and religious beliefs and stuff like that. There's one thing, and it's very disturbing, that I found at the root of all of this. Right, and again, this includes me. I'm not trying to say I'm above and beyond this because this includes everyone in the world, including the elites, including the innocents. Right, we are all in some way, shape, or form affected by a form of psychosis. Right. And I'm not saying that to be sensationalist or anything like that, but we are under psychosis. We are effectively walking blindfolded, or at least partially blindfolded through life, and we're being led astray by very malevolent people, institutions, forces, whatever you want to call it. And we're not exactly thinking straight. We're not thinking clearly. We're not thinking rationally a lot of the time. We're thinking, well, again, take it to the conversation we had the other day. It's based on emotional reactivity, right? It's based on social condition. It's based on mind control and brainwashing and cognitive patterns, cognitive biases, mind traps. It's based on our fashions and interests being catered towards us. It's based on the algorithm telling us what we should be watching and how we should be behaving in line with what we're watching. And this is a form of psychosis, and it's society wide, and it is global. I've just offended the flat earthers again. Oops. But it is a global thing. It's a global phenomenon. Look at psychosis and contrast that to the way that everybody acts. I mean, again, maybe it's a mild form. Maybe the more balanced individuals in society, it doesn't apply as much to them. But I guarantee there's something there. There'll be something. There'll be some form of psychosis that's got them. And that to me is concerning. But the thing is, the good bit about that is at least if we can be aware of that, we can work with it.
Yeah.
We can untangle it. We can develop through it. So I suspect some people will disagree with me on that because it's a bit of it's one hell of a statement to make. But equally, take
That's a
anybody,
good point.
take everyone. Yeah. So
Are we doing a third part to the natural law aspects?
absolutely, mate. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm loving your slides, by the way. Again, I
Oh,
think they're very,
thanks, mate.
very
I
good.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Um,
They're a bit ragtag. I mean, I've just pulled these from various other, mostly from
yeah.
the stuff that I've put on the Occult Academy, which is so
Yeah.
they're a little bit random. But hopefully we're getting
It
some
doesn't.
good information across.
I was going to say it doesn't come across as random. It's
Oh,
all on point. It's all to the information's good. It's true. It's evidence based. It's common
yeah,
sense. It's reasonable. It's rational. It doesn't really matter if there's a sequence to it because it makes sense anyway, just on its own merits. So,
okay.
yeah, I suspect. I mean, I don't know how many slides we got through today. Maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah, just a short handful.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
it could even be a four-parter, and I'm absolutely fine with that
yeah,
because
sure.
let it
It
go on
is
as
a
long as it
big
needs to.
subject, even though it's
Yeah.
fairly simple and straightforward. It means there's a lot of background knowledge needs to
Yes.
being assimilated in order to come to the acceptance of it.
Yeah.
So it's a that makes it a fairly big and comprehensive subject. But it's all good stuff. It's all founded in hardcore
Yeah.
occult level philosophy. And again, the more people who know about this, the better the world will become.
Yeah. I mean, all I can say is I agree with that because practice makes perfect, and the more you expose yourself to this kind of information, the more you understand it.
Yeah,
And it's very vital. At least that's the way I see it, anyway. And again, we're not exactly we're not posting theories here. We're not dealing with theory. We're not dealing with speculation or anything like that.
yeah,
We're just simply looking at the objective nature of the world, of reality, of morality, of psychology, and we're just trying to make the best of it as we can and trying to pass on the information as best we can as well. So make of that what you will. But no, so even again, if it goes on 4 part, I don't even mind if it continues after that. If you want to give it like, if you want to do a show that just deals just entirely with examples of objective morality in case form, like, well,
yeah.
is give a scenario and say, is this right or wrong? Why is it right or wrong? Is this objective or subjective, right? And so we could do that for a couple of hours just on case studies, if you like.
That's a good
Um,
idea.
to cap it off. So yeah, I'm happy to continue with this one.
All right, mate. Yeah.
For as
Well,
long as it takes, really, because again, it's important and I think it's essential knowledge. So however long
yeah.
it takes. All right, mate.
Brilliant.
So
All right.
let me know when you're available in the next couple of days, and we'll set up another one. And if you can, and it doesn't have to be obviously if we're going to deal with these presentations, if you can get some guests on as well
Brilliant. Yeah.
from the academy, then that'll be brilliant. Just let me know when we can fit them on. If it has to be during the day, I'm sure we can figure that out somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, mate.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks for everyone listening in. Thanks for your patience on this. And Nathan, nice chatting to you, mate.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, mate. I mean, genuinely, always a pleasure. But yeah, thanks for everyone watching. If you've got this far, well done. Give us a thumbs up. Try and spread the word because we're just trying to, get some good information out there and try and affect the world in a positive direction. So, there is that. Right. So we'll look forward to part 3, part 4, and potentially part 5 of this, and we'll see you soon. So thanks for tuning into the Drunken Alchemists and another episode of the Occult Academy. And bye for now. Go home, go to sleep, or go for a walk. I don't really care because it's nothing to do with me. Right. Bye, everyone.